This week we're going to go a little bit more nature with what we've been working on. So we've been looking a lot at things that we would call still life. So those are objects that are still when we try and draw them from life. So from life drawing is when you've actually got something sitting in front of you that you can draw. And when it's still life, it's something that is an inanimate object, something that doesn't move like a portrait would. So that's why we've been looking at the shapes that we did in class and the objects from your cupboard and even the furniture from last week. This week is still going to be a still life drawing. Potentially. Depends on what path you decide to take. So there are a few options for what I would like you to draw this week, and it sort of depends on your circumstances. So ideally, number one is I'd like you to go out into your garden, your front yard, your backyard, or if you're able to go to a park with your mum or dad or whoever's helping you out, great. And I'd like you to try and select an item in nature, a tree, a plant, a bush, a flower, whatever you can find, and draw it from life, looking at all those details, how the things interact together, looking at the light source and how that affects the shading. Remember, we are using grey lead only, and we are shading, we're using light and dark and blending it really nicely together. If you can't get outside like me and don't have a backyard or a front yard, the next option is if you've got a plant in your house, I have heaps, that's something that you can draw instead. And same deal, you're going to think about a light source, you're going to think about the details, where all the dark and light comes from. So I'll be drawing a plant today because that's what I have access to. Your third option, if you don't have a backyard or can't get outside or don't have a plant in your house you can draw, the next option is a piece of fruit. And I'm going to have a go drawing a piece of fruit as well. So getting a bit more natural, we're going to have to think a lot about texture and how we create texture in our drawing using only grey lead. And you need to think a lot about, particularly with things like leaves and branches, how they overlap each other. So this is why that week where we did the two objects overlapping becomes really important. Because if you shade all of that the same, then it all blends in together and becomes one big grey blob. So we need to think a lot about our light and dark and how we can make things stand out from each other. All right, I'm going to put a photo up of the plant that I'm using, maybe here, and I'm going to take a photo of it and do that thing that I did last week that I worked out, the thing in the corner and the... All right, let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to try and draw the plant to start off with. I've marked a line along the bottom here, which just marks where I think you can see in the frame. So if you notice that while I'm spinning my paper around, because I like to move my paper while I draw, that's why. So hopefully there'll be a little picture of my plant that I'm drawing up here. Like I said, if you don't have access to a backyard or somewhere you can go and draw some nature at home, you can use a plant like I'm going to do, or I'm going to show you in a second as well. Once I've done this, I'm going to draw something from my fruit bowl. Turns out there's not much in it though, so we'll see how we go. So when I'm doing things like this, I like to start with just like a really basic, really lightly drawn sketch of the things that I can see to make sure that my proportion is right. So I'm going to start with the pot. So it's quite round and quite open, and it's not super tall. Now I don't think I'm going to have enough room to do it that big. Look at that, already got a change. So this is why it's super good to do it light. I've probably gone a little bit big for how big my page is. Okay, so starting with an oval, because even though I know the pot is a circle, when I look at it, it is an oval from that angle. There we go, that's better. I can see this little line around it. It's a self-watering pot, so that means that I can fill it up from the bottom and the roots suck up the water. It's really cool. Stops you from overwatering your plants. I'm not going to do any of the details yet, and I'm just going to leave these lines sketchy. Okay, so my plant is coming from roughly the middle, and there's one branch that goes over like this, just a little bit, and there's one branch that goes up. Now, like I showed you last week, you can use your pencil to help measure things in relation to each other. I will probably do that, but you won't really be able to see me doing it because you can't see the plant as I'm doing this. But it was really hard drawing with that thing on my lap last week, so I don't think I can do it again. This leaf comes out of here and touches the dirt. Like that, and I can see that little bit as well, that little heart shape. I think I have overwatered this plant. It's gone a little bit brown, unfortunately. Too much love. Then there's another one that comes sort of out of here, and that's much bigger and wraps down in line like that. This one's got a bit of a twist to it, so it's a pretty tricky leaf to draw. I'm really taking my time trying to work this out, and I'm drawing it light, like I said. So this one's got a bit of a bend to it, so, and those ones sort of wave like that, curls under just a little bit, and then it like touches here and then opens back up. Oh, tricky. That one's going to take a little bit more time to get really nice, but that's okay. I got all the time in the world. Okay, that's pretty good. Then I've got a big one up the top that sort of covers that one, so it wraps around like this. Big, big, big. And this one comes really out. This is a funny little plant I've got. It's grown really strange. Some of the leaves are just ginormous and some are really tiny. It's odd. Okay, so I'm going to go obviously and fix up some of these later, but for now I just want to get most of the drawing done. The other thing with this is it doesn't really matter if your drawing goes off the page. I think mine is probably going to, which is so fine. It does not matter if it goes off the page, and that comes down like that. That one's a bit bigger actually, and then that one comes down like that. So this is like really sketchy to start off with, and that's okay because a lot of these lines are going to get shaded anyway. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Let's see how we go. Okay, so now I'm going to start working on adding all my detail and including all my shading. So I'm going to put my light source, actually I'm going to put it over here. So it will be coming down like this. That means that these sections down here will be darker, up here will be lighter, but also I need to remember that some of these leaves are actually blocking each other. So as I'm going, these under ones will obviously be darker than these ones at the top. Remember, we would never shade something like this all in one go. We shade each little part of it individually, and that's really important for making this successful. If you try and shade the whole thing at once, remember, like when we did the objects that overlap, it all just blurs together and becomes one big grey mess. You need to think about where your light and dark is, and how to really nicely blend and shade your dark and light colors together. If you rush through this and don't take your time, it's going to be really hard to tell like what leaf and what branch is what. So this part is actually really important. So I'm going to really take my time, focus. Light source here, here's going to be dark, here's going to be dark, and up towards here is going to be lighter. I'm going to do this. It will take me a long time, so I'm going to speed up the video for you guys. But yeah, this will probably take me 20 minutes at least, I reckon, maybe more. So we'll see how we go. Okay, so here's my two pictures, my little plant and my lemon. Now, I was going to show you the video drawing the lemon, but I figured you guys were probably sick of me watching me draw. So I put the light source in the same spot, and I just tried to add a little bit of that texture of the skin by adding a few dots. Your turn. Kind of actually think this is like in some ways a teeny bit easier than drawing furniture. And the details are different to what we've done before. It's a little bit more organic and a little bit less like shapes. So do your best, try and make it 3D, think about your light source, think about your shading, think about your detail. I know it's a lot to think about. Take your time, do your best. I will talk to you next time. Adios.